Hello, everyone, and welcome to the new episode of Entrepreneurship Lab. This is your host, Nevena Bajalac, welcoming you once again to the podcast where we help you grow and scale your business. And today, our goal is to help you be heard, be seen, share your message. And we have an expert here, especially for all of you who are thought leaders, our expert from United States, Tom Schwab. Tom is here to help us share actually a message with you how you can reach more audience and more people. Tom, welcome to the show.
I am thrilled to be here, and this will be an exciting conversation of how you can leverage podcast interviews to not only speak to your ideal clients, but also the AI that is referring them.
Yes, and this is what a lot of audience wants to know right now, how to use AI. Podcasts are so popular. So tell us a little bit more about your passion about this specific niche and this. How did it started for you? And yes, why you decided to go in this direction?
Yeah, so I believe that we're all one conversation away, not just one funnel away. And I also believe that SEO is dying. The rules of online marketing and online business are changing, right? Today, AI is the one that's driving so much of the referral sources to us, right? I recently gave a keynote talk on how to make AI your best referral source. And it's amazing that if you look at where they're saying they're getting their sources, it's Wikipedia, your website, Amazon, if you've written a book. And then after that, AI isn't listening for keywords. It's looking for long form collaborative content, just like we're doing here. AI is listening, so is our clients. And it's a great opportunity for entrepreneurs to have that founder led marketing and really get the message out there on your company, what you believe, how you can help people. It's a great time to be an entrepreneur.
Yes, and I think a little bit overwhelming for some people. I think we feel like everything develops so fast. I know it's been developing for a long time, but it kind of came out and seemed like everything is updating so fast. So what would you say to the entrepreneurs, to go ahead with AI, to start using it easier, not to feel overwhelmed? What is your advice on this?
I, I think too often I'll say I, get caught up in the tactics, right? What's the new tool? What's this new little thing to do? And I think we need to take a step back and say, what's the strategy, right? What are we doing on this? I remember one time, oh, this was years and years ago, my daughter said, Dad, you need to be on Instagram because everybody's there. And I said, well, who's everybody? And she's like, me and all my friends. Well, she was 13 years old. My customers weren't there. So if I would have just gone after the new shiny object, I would have been marketing to 13-year-old girls. Not a good idea, right? So really looking and say, are my clients here? Are my my customers, is the market there? And thinking about it from a big perspective. How can I use this to really have that conversation with my clients and look at it more strategically than tactically?
Mm. So when we talk about strategy, why podcast? Why you feel podcasts are so powerful and why entrepreneurs should use them? Do you recommend them starting a podcast or just go out there and be guest on as many podcasts they can? What's your advice?
Well, I would say maybe all of the above and none of the above. So I think where you start with is it's trust that drives business, right? For a long time, people were saying, oh, you have to have attention. And you can buy attention. You can spend a lot of money with Facebook getting known, but it doesn't mean you're going to get business. People buy from those they know, like, and trust. So you've got to do something to build that trust. And podcasts are a great way to do that because today everybody is cautious, right? Is this AI? And when people hear you, they know it's a conversation that that the two of us talking here, this is real. So that builds that trust. Now, you ask the question, should you be a guest or a host? I think it can be both, right? Being a host is a great way to nurture your current leads, nurture your current clients. But if you build it, everybody's not just going to come, right? Uh, Doing a podcast is a long commitment. It's a lot of work. So if you just want to go out and get new exposure, new clients, new leads, then leveraging other people's established audiences can be the best way to do that. And you had said something about going out and talking to lots of podcasts.
Yeah.
Well, I think activity and results are two different things. And I think in podcast guesting, too many people are just like, well, if I go on enough podcasts and I talk about it, it will work. Well, I don't believe that more is better. Better is better, right? If you think it's all about a numbers game, then just go out in the city and just start talking to random people. Sooner or later, you're going to run into somebody that's a ideal customer, and people like, that's stupid. I'm like, yes, it is, right? Talk to the right people. If you're on a podcast, don't just try getting more podcasts, people that have your audience, and then do more with the podcast by promoting it, repurposing all of that. So I think today we're a lot about more results than just activity.
Yeah, I love that. And focused marketing is always so important. I see so many companies and businesses do it something and I'm like this just makes no sense. Like you said, why would you stand on the street and give flyers to everyone when you can just target the right people, spend less energy, less money, less time, and it's better to have quality than just quantity, right? And I do
Yeah, and I don't
agree. Yeah, yeah.
I don't care if you're just starting out as a solopreneur or if you are Amazon or Apple. Everybody has a limited budget of time and money, and you can't afford to waste that um, marketing to people that will never be great customers. There's a great book out there called Super Consumers by Eddie Yoon. And I loved how he says that you should only market to your super consumers, those people that love you, that will buy everything that you have, because not only will you get the return on investment, but these are also the people that will market you to other people. So being much more focused on that.
Yeah, I love that, Tom. Thank you for sharing. And absolutely, I think podcast is a very long-term commitment. And I always say to a lot of clients, they're like, "Oh, I want to start podcast," and I'm like, "Well, why, right? And are you ready to record 100 episodes? Because there is a statistic saying that many people quit after first one or third one, and you will get breakthrough probably after 100 or more. And we passed 100 episodes, and I can see how it's growing now, really exponentially and going there. But it is a long-term journey and commitment. And from my side, I just loved giving value to the listeners, and I love the connections I'm building, like with people with you from all around the world who are guests on my podcast and learning, right? It's like a free masterclass of 30 minutes of getting a free advice from different experts and then sharing it with the audience. So it's a beautiful journey, but it's definitely not for everyone. And I think it's so important to decide specific audience, who you're going to interview, and like you said, have a strategy behind it. So what are your thoughts as well on it?
Yeah, I always say before you start anything, start with the end in mind. So, what are you trying to get out of this? What's the reason for that? Because if you don't have that, as soon as life gets tough, you'll give up on it. And the stat that I have seen is that 80% of podcasts die within the first 10 episodes. And you'll hear people say, there's 4 million podcasts out there. Well, that's true, but less than a half million have published anything in the last 30 days. So it's one of these things where it's easy to start, it's hard to keep going. So to think through that on any marketing that you do or any business that you do, right? Think of, why am I doing this? What does it look like long term? Because you are going to hit those roadblocks in the way. And if you don't have that why behind it, it's going to be too easy just to quit.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And speaking about targeted audience, if we want to, our listeners, they want to go on a podcast and but they want to find the right podcast for them. What would you say is the method? What are the steps they can do to make sure they're speaking to the right audience?
Yeah, great question. Now, there's some databases out there that you can license. Um, and they're very expensive, but I love the idea of just using something like ChatGPT. That has been very effective to say, this is who I am. Maybe even put in your LinkedIn profile so they can see that. These are the people that I want to talk to, right? And this is why I want to be on podcasts. And then do their deep research, right? Where it says, go out and find me 20 ideal podcasts that would have my audience that I could bring value to me and explain to me why you think I would be a good fit. So after you get that 20, look through those, listen to them, and then pick out five that you think are great and reach out to them, right? And Gary Vaynerchuk talks about jab, 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 right hook. I look at it as give, 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 ask. So give the podcast a listen. If you still think it's a great one for you, give it a rating and review. Hosts listen for that, right? Then give it some love on social media by interacting, promoting there, and then reach out to the host and say, I like the podcast. This is where I think I could add value to it, right? Not that I just want to be a guest, but I'd like to add value to it. If you keep giving, they will ask you to be on there. And some people will come back and say, well, that seems like a lot of work. That's not scalable, right? I've got this thing where I can email all 4 million podcast hosts at one time. Sounds very efficient, but guess what? They're not going to say yes to you, right? And the thing is with podcasts, podcast hosts know podcast hosts. So if you get on a podcast, and even if it's a smaller one, right, you do a good job. At the end of that, after you stop recording, ask the host, say, I really enjoyed this, right? Do you know any other hosts that I could bring value to? Guess what? They know each other. And if they introduce you to two podcast hosts and you do a good job, and then those podcast hosts introduce you to two more each, all of a sudden you start to have this great network there. And that's something that you've built, you've earned, and that will really serve you in the long term.
Wow, I think the listeners like already just this part was so much value to take from. It was definitely worth so far listening to the episode, and I'm sure listeners will agree. So, guys, make sure to leave some comments and follow Tom and give some support because this was so valuable, right? How to use ChatGPT, how to find the right audience for you. Like you're using AI that's gonna in 1 minute give you so much data to help you. And like you said, we can buy database or have virtual assistant. I tried that in the past, I remember. And then like you say, you send like all the same emails and nobody come back to you. And I was like, this is not working. So it's about building that relationship and giving value and showing that you're valuable and it's more personalized than it is. And I think that me as a podcast host, I read bios, right? I receive every day probably between 5 to 20 requests for guests, and I do open and read. Yes, I don't accept everyone. And I think if when I see, oh, this one is the right fit, this one can give value, that's when we say yes. And I believe that other podcast hosts will do the same.
Yeah, there's a agency out there right now, and their tagline is pitch 1,000 podcasts in the time that it would have taken you to pitch one. And it's become a joke in the industry, right? Nobody wants more spam email. The best hosts aren't going to say yes to that, right? So are you optimizing for activity? Well, great. You just pitched 1,000 random hosts and you ended up in their spam box, right? Or are you optimizing for results? And that comes from human connection. And that really sets you apart there. And I think there's a lie that we've been taught as entrepreneurs for too long, that it's all about more, 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 right? We need more leads. We need more activities. We need more followers. You know what? The bank doesn't care about your number of followers. They care about the profits. And so
Yes.
optimize for ideal clients and meaningful things.
Yes, I love that. I absolutely love that share. And speaking about spamming, I think this is one mistake that maybe entrepreneurs are doing. What is another common mistake people are making and you would say they should avoid?
Oh, I just talked about this one, and it's this idea that a podcast is about going out there and just telling your story, right? There's a place to tell your story, and you tell it once or twice, and then start talking about the problems you solve, right? Nobody really cares about your story. They care about their story, right? I had a gentleman one time that pointed out to me that we're all selling Preparation H. In the US, Preparation H is hemorrhoid cream. And nobody cares about our product or our service. They care about the pain in their rear end. So if you go on a podcast, talk about the problems that people have, talk about what you believe, right? I talked about that. I believe we're one conversation away, that it's not about more, it's about better. I believe that we're not optimizing for more activity. We should be optimizing for more profits. So talk about those things, right? The big picture things and how you can help people with that. That's much more effective than the people that just want to go out and give their life story on every podcast.
Yes, I mean, people maybe there is, of course, this emotional aspect and story sells and if people feel they know you. But at the end of the day, if I'm thinking, which expert I should hire to help me with my podcast, or which consultant I want to hire for sales, or who is an investor that I want to go for advice when I'm investing, I would remember those who really gave some value in the podcast. So I think that's really like always for me has been okay. Let me give you one, two, three, right? One, two, three steps, and like this is what you can do to increase your sales or to get more customers. And people can take notes and actually walk out, take some action, and implement that.
Yeah, and you can always work your story into it. But when I first started out, probably 10 years ago, I cringe at some of my interviews. People would say, "So tell me about yourself." And that was the entire interview. And right. And I'd be like, "Well, I live in rural Southwest Michigan. I can't even see another neighbor. I've got two miniature donkeys," right? Nobody cares. But if I'm talking and I'm like, listen, you can do podcast interviews from anywhere. I live here. I can't see a neighbor. I've got two miniature donkeys. If I can do podcast interviews from here, you can do them from wherever you are. All right. Now that's a meaningful part of the story. It's about the listener, not about me.
I love that. I love that. So, Tom, as we are wrapping and the time is passing so fast, what is your final advice you would like to give to the listeners that they how they should utilize grow their business using podcast?
Yeah. One of my favorite phrases is what's ordinary to you is amazing to others, right? I don't care if you're just starting your business or you're on version 6.0 of your business. Right now, there is somebody on their knees praying for what you have to offer, right? So go out there and share that with them. And, if we can be of any help, we've got some resources back at interviewvalet.com/lab, right? For the Entrepreneurship Lab. And, copy of my book, Podcast Guest Profits, How to Grow Your Business with the Targeted Interview Strategy. There's an assessment there. If you've ever done a podcast interview and it didn't work, we'll take a listen and we'll give you feedback on how you can improve. And then finally, if you want to talk to our team and see how we could work together on this, all of that will be there at interviewvalet.com/lab.
Amazing. We're going to make sure to put all of these links in the description of the episode, Tom, so people and listeners can get a lot of value. But yeah, that was so right on spot with this last thought as well. I mean, absolutely, absolutely agreed. So thank you for being here today and sharing with us all your expertise and knowledge.
Thank you for all you do. Anybody that says doing a podcast is easy has never done it or never done it well. Like the great ones like you just make it look easy.
Thank you so much, Tom. Everyone, please make sure to follow, go to the links, and get all your amazing gifts you got from Tom. Connect with him, reach out if you want more advice and more help on your business and utilizing the podcast. As always, we invite you to subscribe if you haven't already, download, share this episode with at least one person that can benefit from it, and let us know what else, other topics you would like to listen and us to record in the future. Thank you for listening, and I see you in the next episode.